Before I begin, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say I actually wish to officially protest on behalf of every person in here, regardless of their feelings on this, as to the 3-minute limitation. That is absolutely not in keeping. I was on zoning, and that is not in keeping ever with the traditions of the Zoning Commission, and to change something at this point, to me, is simply unacceptable. And what I've written here is not going to be done in 3 minutes, and I think it's a disservice. No one was told there would only be 3 minutes, and I think it's patently unfair. Are you going to rule on that? I mean,
rules, whether it's the rules that were set up, or we're trying to move the meeting along.
And I understand if I spoke about anything that wasn't a zoning issue, but and as well as anyone else.
You go talk about terms of the settlement, then you have the floor.
Thank you. As I said, my name is David McCarthy, and I'm a current member of the Norwalk Common Council representing District E, which includes West Norwalk and some of the neighborhoods affected by this application. I'm here representing my constituents who cannot be or who are unable to speak publicly. I'm here for the residents who have been discouraged from showing up, being told that this settlement is inevitable, unavoidable, and that they simply have to take it, and that there's nothing they can do. I'm here for the residents of the Stonegate condominium who, it was said, they have accepted this settlement. Their board has accepted this settlement. Most of the residents have contacted me saying they do not support this, but I understand that, that association, having spent upwards and close to $200,000, is now, looking to take the monetary offer that's being put before them, and I can't blame them for that, but their residents have not agreed. And I forgot to say, as a member of the Zoning Commission previously, I thank you all for doing this. I realize it's not easy for anybody, either up there or in the audience. Now, in my statement, I actually said I was going to ask you to look at this as if it were a new application, but from what I hear, that's simply going to be impossible. Unfortunately, I think that's the way it should be looked at. The changes that are made should be considered in the context of the neighborhood, in the context of the way any special application would be made. And if that's not the case, it's unfortunate. This application has become politicized, and that's unfortunate. And I've worked very hard to undo that perception. And I think when you see the people behind me here, I've spoken, as was reported in some places, with Mr. Watts, Ms. Melendez, and reached across party lines to try and discuss how to look at this application fairly. I have to say, and I don't honestly think until today I had ever heard anyone in the community actually say they were in favor of this settlement. Other than obviously the applicants, until today when I received one email from a person who felt it was a NIMBY issue.
All right, Dave, you got 1 minute.
Unbelievable. I'm gonna. It's unbelievable. I'm going to go to the reasons that you denied this when you initially denied it, and they are each still valid, and you should continue to reject this. 3 feet 10 inches off the back of a building is no impact to a neighborhood. 18 inches from the top of a building is laughable. The accessory space is not a protected religious use. When I spoke with Ms. Hamilton and asked her what evidence had been presented in this case, she responded none, and that this was the most winnable case that she had ever seen. And I'm sure she will back me up on that. The rest is nonsense. The accessory use in the large rear building has not been clearly defined. It was reason 1. It still hasn't been. The traffic report failed to identify any uses or analyze any uses of the rear building as required. And the rear building, minus 3 foot 10 in the back, is still the same thing that you rejected. The density of use in the bulk of buildings is not in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the regulation. It's substantially larger than most places of worship. It does not blend well with the surrounding residential neighborhood and cannot possibly be adequately screened from the neighbor's view. The modifications you've mentioned certainly do not do that. The rear building is much larger than the main building, still the case. The proposal to share parking with an off-site church does not comply with the parking regulations. No long-term parking agreement, this memo is not an agreement. It's not a 25-year lease that you require in all those situations.
Time, Dave.
Call the police. I'm not going anywhere. It's just a paper exercise. The parking that has been added to this application by placing these VIP parking places behind other parking, it's ridiculous. It's a falsehood. They do not allow for continuous and normal traffic flow on the site or off, and nothing is going to change that. I've dropped my presentation. The rear building, again, which is not part of the religious function and is really the only thing that is egregiously beyond and out of scope for this application, should not be eligible for the height exemption under your regulations. It exceeds those, and that has not changed.
Okay,
other than by
Dave,
the
you have to
18
wrap it
minutes.
up.
Due to the insufficient parking, the bulk of the buildings, and the lack of screening, the project will adversely impact property values and therefore does not comply with Section 118, 1450, C1H, the impact on neighborhood property. And, of course, the inadequate screening. If you want me to finish, and I respect you, Chairman Santos, so I will finish, and I'm going to finish with some interesting quotes. Because of the sheer size of the building and the character of the neighborhood, 12,000 square feet is out of harmony with the neighborhood. I have no doubt in my mind that if you were to create an institution such as this one, it would devalue abutting properties. You may be confused about the reference to 12,000 square foot when this application is obviously much larger. These quotes were made by Mr. Coppola when he was in Greenwich, where he was speaking in opposition to a synagogue. There, a 12,000 square foot project with only 10,000 foot usable on a 2-acre parcel, i.e. larger, was of concern to him and was out of harmony. In Norwalk, a 40,000 square foot development on a 1.5-acre parcel is somehow acceptable.
All right, Dave.
And I will conclude there and just, I'm sorry you've been put into this position, but this is not right. And I urge you to respect these people and vote no. There is no other way you can vote.